started. I'm gonna get us recording. Perfect. Welcome everyone. We have a great panel for you guys today. So you can see all of the bright faces, of course, some faces that you probably recognize and maybe some folks that you don't. But we have Alex, who is going to kick us off. Then we have Charles, who's going to get us rolling into our panel. And then I want to thank you guys so much already. Terry from Southlake, Michael from Houston Heights, and Roxanne from Austin. Thank you guys so much for being panelists. We really appreciate it. And don't forget, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and type those into the chat because we're going to be monitoring that throughout. All right, Alex, take it away.
All right, good morning, CB Texas. I'm so used to saying CB DFW, but today it's all in Texas, Austin, Houston, and DFW. My name's Alex Vidal. I'm the RVP here in Dallas. I am not taking the mic today. I'm going to be passing it on to Charles to lead today's moderation, the president of Texas. I will tell you, I posted the other day on social media. It was a great meme, whatever they call it. And it said, Tom Brady has now been to more Super Bowls than there are active listings in the MLS. Can I get an amen? That is so true. It's probably across the board. So listings are the biggest, with listings, with great power comes great responsibility. With great listings comes great challenges. And that's what today's panel is all about. So with that said, I'm going to turn my camera off. I'm going to turn it over to Charles and this crew, and we'll come back and answer some questions at the end. Charles, all yours.
Alex, thank you so much. And folks, and as you know, this is our second CB series kickoff. Alex was so great in starting this sort of the coaching club up in Dallas and DFW market, and now we're taking it across Texas. Thanks to many of you and the questions and the inquiries and the requests that we got about getting a One Texas sort of brainstorming session across the entire network. And, so this is it. This is CB Success Series number 2. We are focused on the first quarter. It's all about listings. As we know, listing inventory is king right now and, in high demand. So, we've got some great panelists today to share with you some of their success secrets. Obviously, I want to open this up in the chat for questions, not only related to the specific items of listings today, but what other topics you would love to see CB bring to the table in our success series, and perhaps recommending some of the great agents in our fine state where we would love to participate, or you'd like to recommend that have done a phenomenal job on the listing side, or any other topic you'd like to do. So with that being said, I just want to thank the panelists first, Terry Gray with the Southlake office, Michael Brown in the Heights, and Roxanne Escobedo in Westlake. You guys rock it. So just quick as an intro, can you give me about a 30-second intro in each and every one of you, so the folks tuning in today get to know a little bit about, for those that know you, get to know you a little more, and for those that don't, they get a little intro about who you are and what you're doing. So I'll start with you, Terry. So you're on my top left. So give us a little intro about yourself.
Well, my previous career was in sales and marketing and packaged goods, and then my husband's career started moving us around the country. So very familiar with relocating and what it takes to relocate children and families and finding a good home for people. Moved to Texas 22 years ago, and I have had my license in real estate for 20 years. And all of those years with Coldwell Banker, just because my background was in corporate. So I like the backing of a big corporation. So I am so happy to be with Coldwell Banker. The tools we get, nobody can compete. So I've stuck with Coldwell Banker the whole time because I always feel like I'm at the leading edge of the market, no matter what's going on, because Coldwell Banker and Realty, just keeps us there. Let's see, what else? I guess that's all of it was with CB. My business at this point, after 20 years, is primarily repeat customers and referrals. I'm now helping my clients' children buy homes. So that's kind of where I am now, but that doesn't stop me from still doing, media marketing. No matter what, if you have a long history and people have known you as a realtor, you need to keep reminding them, because there's so many other realtors coming into the marketplace that you better keep reminding them that you're an active realtor and you know what the market's all about. So that's it.
Thank you, Terry. And just like you're stuck with us, we are stuck with you, and we're glad to have you as part of our family. So for 20 years, thank you so much. Roxanne, I'm going to go to you next. Give 30 seconds update on yourself.
Can't hear you.
You're on mute, Roxanne.
No, she's not.
Not on mute. Okay, let's see if we can figure out those technical difficulties really quick. And I'm going to jump to Michael Brown in this, and then we'll come back to you, Roxanne. So, Michael, quick intro about who is Michael Brown.
Well, I've been with Coldwell Banker a little over 2 years, in the industry just over 11. Prior to that, I was in the hospitality industry working for a little Asian restaurant called PF Chang's. So that's really helped my database and stuff like that. But ever since I moved to Coldwell Banker, my business is like shot off. So it's been a great experience, and I love what I'm doing.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks. Yeah, you've had great success with us, and you're just a joy and a pleasure to be around. So I know that most people know Michael's personality. You'll know he just brings a breath of fresh air into the room. Roxanne, are you up? Can we try?
No.
You are still on mute, Roxanne.
All right. While we get Roxanne, I would say log out and log back in, and we're gonna keep rolling. And then when you get back in, we'll let you introduce yourself.
Okay, real quick, we'll start off the biggest question today in today's challenging market, right? Inventory is in tight supply and demand is really high. So I just want to kick it off, Michael, Terry, give us a little bit update on, in a market like this where things are on fire, I would say it's definitely a seller's market. How would you each of you go about, and I'll start with Michael first, how do you go about getting listings? The number one question agents have is, how do I get listings in a market like this where it's very competitive and we're dealing with the pandemic?
The biggest thing for me is being top of mind, being right there in the forefront. Social media is huge for that. I mean, I think people know my dog better than they know me, but if I post just kind of funny stuff, I get more of a reaction than, okay, well, here's the stats for the state of Texas, And so I think just the personality is a big part of it. And then just making sure you're top of mind and right out there in front of people. One other thing that I've been doing is, early on in my career, I did a book club about buying investment properties for clients. So I've been staying in touch with them, reaching out to them to let them know, hey, do you maybe want to think about doing a 1031 exchange and upgrading your property? And so then that always starts the conversation. Well, what the heck's a 1031? Well, now I've got my foot in the door. So right. Anything we can do.
So it's really about staying top of mind and basically presenting some value that is going to attract them in many cases. And we can talk a little bit more about the communication, whether it's social media, email. What's your mode of communication with your sphere?
Well, we just started doing one of the campaigns, the
Hello.
holidays. Oh, look, Roxanne's here. But we're doing the Offbeat holiday campaign, and that goes out to about 8,000 people a month. And I get a huge reaction for that. Like, we sent out one that was the funny socks, and I started getting all these text messages of people's actual socks that day. So it's getting a reaction, which is all we can hope for.
Love it. Making it personal, right? Not so much business, but rather connecting with your clients on a personal level. Fantastic. Roxanne, welcome. Thank you. Since we had a little audio problem, could you go ahead and give us about give the audience a 30-second intro on who's Roxanne and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, clearly Roxanne is not somebody that can handle earbuds and audio on Zoom. But anyway, Roxanne Escobedo with the Westlake office, by the way, Alex, in Austin. I've been licensed in Texas since 1998. I was a single mom of 4. And then in 2005, got recruited by the brand new Lakeway office for CB. And at that point, I had twins with my husband, and we had 6 kids. So I had to get to work, and have been with Coldwell Banker since 2005. Moved over to the Westlake office in 2009, and been happy, been doing good, been grateful. I looked at my stats. It's always important to look at your numbers. And since I joined Coldwell Banker, I have steadily increased my GCI by 5 to 10% every year. It's kind of crazy. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being with us. Thank you for being part of the Coldwell Banker family. And we'll jump to that question and next, Roxanne, for you. But let me start with Terry. Terry, what about you in this challenging environment that we're in, competitive environment, low inventory? How are you going about getting your listings?
You know, the challenges I'm finding primarily is I have clients who want to move. And so there's that listing opportunity, but I can't find them a house to buy. So that is a major challenge. So I'm just, out there writing letters to neighborhoods they want to move to. So I'm really working the buy side because I have to, because they can't list. They're not going to list until they know they've got something they can buy. So I've got quite a few of those situations right now. The other is that in this seller's market, so many people believe that they don't need a realtor. So that's, it's an ongoing challenge as a realtor to communicate to all your clients and your sphere the importance of having a realtor and what you bring to the table. And then also, I think it's just a huge challenge. For some reason, there's just a lot more realtors than when I started 20 years ago. And it's just competing with the number of realtors who are willing to take listings at no commission, or not. So those are my biggest challenges that I'm facing right now. And
well, we'll address the competitive side of the business later in the panel questions. But Roxanne, how about you? Thank you, Terry. Roxanne, how about you? What are you doing right now to garner listings or reach out to your sphere to see how much listings are king? So what are you doing in your market to get more listings?
I think one of the things that 2020 showed us is we had to kind of pivot and change everything we were doing. Right now, what I'm trying to focus on is, the brilliant basics, basically doing those phone calls, having the goal of, I'm going to have 2 appointments a week if it kills me. And when you have to just increase your numbers because like Terry said, there's a lot of agents out there. There's a lot of discount brokers. We have to have a plan and we have to earn it. And so we got to know what we're talking about. We got to know our area, our market, and we can't just rely on those referrals. Although, I'm just asking everybody, hey, I know, you may not be thinking of listing, but hey, who do you know? I mean, do you have a friend? Do you have a brother? I feel like we got to be double downing on our basics and really getting out there and hitting the pavement and having the big goals. So.
Yeah, definitely. So, I would tell you in these unprecedented times, they're basically, listing focus is key, and how we get to those listings. And I'll have Alex jump in at the end talking about his CB9 strategy and reaching out to as many people as possible, because most people like yourselves, 80 to 90% of their business comes from, their sphere of business, sphere of influence many times. So I think it's important in these times that we reach out to our sphere and connect with them. So Terry, you addressed some challenges, in the business that I think are across the board. And one of those challenges is really, how do we deal with the competitiveness or the discounters, right, in this market? So I'm sure many of you come across the folks that are telling you that would you list for less? And I think value proposition is critical. So let me start with Michael. Michael, how about you? How are you dealing with the commissionectomy, or I should say the discounters?
I just bring it up head front, put it right in front. And I've taken it before we listed it and even sent it out to iBuyers, just to show them, hey, this is what they're offering you and here's what we can get you. So, I think battling it head on, pointing out all of our marketing. When you're using Listing Concierge, they don't know what we pay for it. That's the good part. So they think we're spending thousands of dollars on this marketing material, which Coldwell Banker is, but out of our own pocket, it's pretty small. So they don't need to know exactly what we're spending. But I show up with the marketing material and show them this is what we're going to do and show them strategy. And that's what they don't get from other people. I tell them, do you want to be responsible for making your own appointments, showing your own house, doing your own open houses? That's what a lot of these discount brokers do. So confront it head on. Don't try to hide.
Right. Perfect. Yeah. So really highlighting your value proposition. And, one of the things I read in one of the books was about, we're just not even in a hot market like we are today, just thinking about just putting a yard sign and the thing will sell. There's a lot more components we become consultants through the entire process. Yeah. And that's the critical part of being a great listing agent. So Terry, about yourself, how are you handling some of those discount broker challenges?
Well, Charles, you just said something I haven't used or thought about for years, but when I was mentoring new agents, you've got to think of yourself as a consultant. And that's truly what we are. And it's amazing how your average consumer doesn't understand what a well-educated and well-tooled realtor does for them. So I think it's up to us, one, to be really well-educated. I mean, for anybody new out there, even if you're not new, take the classes, understand what, how to do what you're supposed to be doing, and get better at it, and practice and talk to people, and, get a mentor. So get well educated, and then understand all the tools we have to offer. So I think it's really up to us to first be confident, well educated, and know we're confident in our data and the tools, and then educate that consumer and that potential client with what goes into that. And then it really becomes fairly easy to compare to those discount brokers. You just have to describe what their whole process is, like with Door and some of them, and you can see that you're not going to get taken care of with the personal and the experience that you're going to get from an agent from Coldwell Banker.
All right, thank you, Terry. And Roxanne, how about you? What's your differentiator?
Well, I think the trend right now is videos and social media. And I think when people are talking about cutting, number one, they don't care about your pocketbook. They only care about theirs. And so you got to show them the value of whatever we're charging them. And it is a valuable service. And like Terry said, you've got to know your stuff. And like Michael said, you've got to know the stats. I mean, if you went next to, here's what I sell, 98 to 110% of list price. Here's what discount brokers sold that house down the street for, and where they started and where they ended. If you show those stats to them, I think people will go, oh, well, maybe I can make more money when I spend more money. It's kind of, you get what you pay for. At the end of the day, though, I think, gone are the days of people saying, oh, well, I think you should I'll just cut my commission by 2% just because I need this. I can tell people, look, I want to help you. I want to be your consultant. I want to get your house sold for the highest price that the market will allow, but I have to earn it. And this is how I earn it. And so it takes them realizing, okay, and being able to say goodbye. If you're going to discount me now, I'm not going to, you're going to discount me when we go down the road, and you're going to be hard to deal with. And inevitably, when I've done that, when I've given up part of my commission, I have had to deal with the hardest clients. And so you either fire them up front or you fire them later. One of those times it's going to happen. So.
Right. And one of the big things I've discovered in talking to some of the agents, even with Listing Concierge, is there's always that challenge of, well, what do you want me to take away, right? You're putting a vast investment up front on the condition that the house may potentially sell, right? So you're actually floating the money, you're doing everything possible. So it's really articulating that value proposition. I learned 3 things in my life. It's resonate, differentiate, substantiate, right? So why should I use your service? You got to have that down. How are you different from every other realtor out there that's offering service or other company? And can I substantiate the value that I'm bringing to the table? So absolutely, y'all talking those value proposition, which is phenomenal. I mean, that's exactly it. And there's plenty out there, right? I mean, there's plenty of companies out there that are willing to do and cut, but you are consultants, and it's not necessarily just on, pricing matters. Pricing that house at the right value is effective. And because it could make a world of a difference in how much money they get to take home, but also it's helping them through the mortgage process if they're buying, helping them through closing, the inspections, and some of the other challenges. So you are truly a consultant to that client. So let's talk a little bit about, price reductions on the other side, right? So really, aside from the discount brokers, since we're on that topic, how are you handling the customer, when he comes in and does that, would you do it for 3 or 2%? Because, and Roxanne, you kind of touched on that, but Michael, how about you? I mean, how are you dealing with that? I call it the commissionectomy on the other side.
Well, I'm just pretty straightforward and say, you know what? Well, it depends, and I would say everything's a variable. Right. If they're buying something and selling something, sometimes we do work something out, but you get that listing or that buyer agreement signed at the same time you get your listing agreement signed. Because if you've got somebody that's buying $1 million house and they're selling $750, you may want to work something out, That's straight up front. You're not going to hold that full commission every time. And I think as long as we factor that in, that's a big difference too.
Good. So let me jump to a much more exciting topic of multiple offers. In this great market that we're in, and you being great listing agents, how are you handling the multiple offer situation, specifically on dealing with the other realtors on the other side, using that, let's start with that, and I'll talk about leveraging how you use a multiple offer situation to expand your listing horizon. But really, Terry, how are you dealing with the multiple offer situation and guiding your clients through the process?
Well, thank goodness. Coldwell Banker came up with an amazing process for us. I don't even know how many years ago. So I've been using that since. And I think number one and most important is that if you want to stay out of trouble and do it right and be a professional, you got to remember that you got to be fair and equitable to all competing parties and agents, no matter what. So that's number one. The second thing is that don't forget your seller has the ultimate decision on what they want to do. So if you can document that they've told you how to handle it, then, but get it documented. The process Coldwell Banker has for us is amazing. Go learn it, go take the training, practice it with an agent who's experienced it. You're not doing your job if you're not getting the best possible price for your client. So make sure you're within your legal boundaries in terms of being fair and equitable, but still get that best price for your client. So I love the process Coldwell Banker has given us. It's great. All of the different, comparing the prices, responding. I just feel very confident and comfortable with that process that I'm protected and doing.
Roxanne,
right.
how about you?
Number one, I love being on that side of the table. I mean, that is the side of the desk when you're being sold, right? I have, for my buyers, I have a top 10 to 12 things that I do, that I suggest they do when handling an offer, because we are in such a great multiple offer environment on every level, and so being on this side of the desk and sitting down with my clients, I have the spreadsheet and I have my top 10 to 12 things that I say, if I was a buyer's agent, this is what I would bring, and then they go through it, we go through it together, and it may take a while, if you've got 5 offers, if you've got 10 offers, it's not always about the price. Sometimes it's about the terms, and my client could have taken 60 over on a recent deal we had, but he needed a lease back. And so the person that came in with the lease back said, we're only going up to 50 over. So he was like, fine, I can do that. It is very, very important to be able to tell the other agents, look, I work for my client. I work for the seller. Give me your highest and best. And sometimes they'll call me and they'll say, well, what do you need? And I'll say, give me your highest and best and make the terms good. By the way, my client needs a lease back. And that kind of gets people out of the door. They're like, well, we'll give you 20 more if you let us, do the lease back or not do the lease back. And, that doesn't work. So I think it's important to just take your time, make sure all the terms are listed that are important to your seller. And even as just the last one I had, it was a cash deal, quick close, but it was neck and neck on price. And the other agent called me and said, where are we? And I said, we're neck and neck in price. And I said, if you go a little over, maybe we can have it. Well, they didn't know that they already had it because they were a cash deal, right? But my client said, you think they'd go over? Sure. So we asked them and they did. And so always remember, they come first. We work for them. We tell the other agents, this is what we need. See what you can do. So.
Absolutely, great advice, Michael. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit on you, and still same topic. of multiple offers, but I don't know if you've run into the situation, and actually this could be for the panel as a whole. How much leverage are you, or how much weight are you giving or working with your clients on these personal letters in this competitive market? You know, you're getting the buyer send these, you know, love notes to the seller wanting to deliver them. You know, how do you feel about that, and how are you addressing those situations?
Even ask the client if they want to receive it, because I mean, it could be later construed as, you know, like presenting a bias, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm just a little hesitant on that. You know, that's why I tend to do the spreadsheets and the contracts, and we look at apples to apples. You know, and I'll even let that other agent know, hey, you know, just so we don't bias the seller, we're not presenting that.
Okay.
Mm.
Terry?
Interesting approach, because I guess I feel like anything that agent has sent to me as a part of the offer, it's my duty to forward it to my client. Now, again, I go back to what you did, Michael, is I focus on the terms and the price. And if they decide to get hung up on the cute family, then that's kind of their thing, not mine, you know? So, so that's from the listing side. From the buying side, it kind of depends. If you're buying a house from an investor, he doesn't care. So it depends. So, you know, and I often have buyers who love to do that kind of thing, and others don't. So it kind of depends.
Roxanne, what about you?
Oh, same. I mean, I just tell my seller, listen, there's 5 offers, 3 of them have letters. Do you want to look at the letters? And they'll say yes or no. And if
Okay.
they do, I show it to them, you know. A lot of times, you know, at the end of the day, they do count a little bit, but cash is king. Time
That's
is everything, money's everything, you
Yeah.
know. If the terms work, that cute family, as cute as they are, ain't gonna work, you know. I
Mhm.
mean, but I tell my buyers, look, it doesn't hurt to send it. So
Okay. Well, let's just dive into a little bit on the marketing side, right? So over the last, you know, this pandemic has been, I always tell people we have a health crisis, not a housing crisis, thank God, right? So we've
Right.
realized that the market's been really good to us over the last year, despite the pandemic. And with inventories being as low as they are, I think people are holding off selling their homes. One, because, you know, they got nowhere to go or have to pay that extra premium to go somewhere. Or the other side of it is that people don't want others into their home at this point in time. They're still kind of holding back on, you know, do I sell? Do I not sell? How are you in this world of marketing? How are you doing things differently in the last 30 days to market? Michael?
The biggest thing is whenever we're getting ready to list a house is what is their plan? You know, because if it sells the first day, where are you going to go? What are you going to do? And so I've actually reached out to different apartment complexes around the listings to find out if they'll do a 3-month or a 6-month list, you know, worst case scenario. Or just recently I had one and they were like, well, we'll move in with my mom. And I was like, oh shit, that could be a little challenging. But we made it work, you know, and luckily the buyers were very flexible with us as well. So it was only a 4-day process where they were literally out of the house and in with the mom. But if you don't have that plan, they're very hesitant about listing, you know. And I've got another one where the wife is pregnant, but we worked with a lender to make sure that they could buy the new house without having to sell right away, you know. And then, you know, using your terms with your lenders, I mean, that's the biggest part of it. Can they do a smaller down payment and then do a principal reduction where they recast the loan later on? I mean, that's the fun part, all the numbers, but you've got to be very creative to make sure they feel comfortable putting their house on the market, because otherwise they're homeless, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Roxanne, how about you? How are you doing things differently in a marketing sense, you know, in the last 90 days, even beyond?
just to clarify, are you talking about marketing myself or marketing our homes?
Both. How about that? Let's open up
Okay.
both floodgates. I'm sure people want to know.
Gotcha. Marketing for listings. When I get that listing on the market, obviously it's concierge. You know, you got the 360 view, you've got the Austin Monthly, you've got everything. But what I love is that we can now boost, instead of getting those brochures, we can now boost it on social media. And I love that, because that way you can go over, you've got a lot more exposure. And that kind of ties into my marketing of myself. I think videos are everything. Right now, I'm challenging myself to doing 30 days of 30-second videos, on Instagram, and that feeds to the Facebook business page, right? So just snippets, and that gets me in front of people, and that gets my people into sharing it with their people. And then my buddy Rudy and I over in my office, we do a YouTube video once a week, and it's called R&R, Roxy and Rudy, and we make real estate fun. And because we need to be a little bit different, but we also need to be professional, right? And we need to make sure people understand what real estate is, because they just hear that the house down the street sold for 100,000 over. Oh my gosh, with 20 offers, why can't that happen to my house? So I think it's important to market. Number one, we've got to market, we got to get those prospects, and we have to get in the video game, and we've got to get into the social media game, and we've got to make sure our listings are in that arena as well, because somebody else is doing it. And if that seller tells me, oh, Roxanne, well, XYZ Realty said that they would have me on their Facebook page. Oh yeah, well, we already do that with Coldwell Banker Realty. It's part of this package. So
before I go to Terry, I want to chase the rabbit a little bit here. Roxanne, you mentioned social media and putting things on social media, the 30 for 30. Can you give us kind of a glimpse of what kind of content, because the challenge I see with many agents is, what do I put on, right? I mean, it's that starting motion of where
Sure.
what do I wrap my head? So just give us a little teaser on, what does that look like? And maybe even throw out, hey, people that want to see what you're doing in different markets, they can hop on and follow you.
Yeah. So as an example, Sunday I was destaging a house and my husband was helping me. So I gave him my phone and said, honey, can you give me 30 seconds? So I just said, hey, today's the day that we're destaging, deconstructing. That's one of the things I do for you when I list and sell your house. And it actually does bring you more value, and it helps you sell the house faster. Thanks. Have a great day. It's Roxanne with 30-second videos. My husband cut my head off. And so when I put it on Instagram, it was like, my caption was, I've lost my head, but in this market. And then watch to the end and you'll see my whole face, That's something. Rudy and I last week, we focus like on neighborhoods in this area. We focus on the stats every time the stats come out, and they're the same, the heat maps from Independence Title. And we talk, and that's our YouTube video. And then he takes it and he edits it to about 5 minutes, right? And so we don't have a whole lot of followers. So every time we're trying to ask, I was on my walk this morning and I saw one of my neighbors, and he was asking me about the market, and I was talking to him and I said, hey, I got to go, but hey, can you text me I want to send you my YouTube video so you can subscribe. He said, oh, I'd be happy to, just to get another subscriber. So that's it. Parks in the area, restaurants, market statistics. I've got a whole list of them if anybody wants them.
Data information is key, right? And I'll let Alex touch on this at the end, but really, are we working our sphere of influence? That's one of the biggest challenges I find, is we can put this stuff up, but really getting our sphere to buy in, because most of us have probably over 500 people on Facebook that we connect with, or LinkedIn or otherwise, is how we can capture them and get them to engage with us on a certain level where they feel like they're getting value. So,
right.
So Terry, how about you in this marketing world? What are you doing differently to market yourself and market your listings?
So I don't think I could beat Roxanne and Michael. They've given me some great ideas, but so you brought up pandemic though. And the thing that comes to my mind was, early on in I think I started showing homes to a young couple like the March 12th, so I posted videos that I'm wearing a mask, so I think there's still a lot of people out there that are super sensitive. And that's what I've noticed as we go through this. Have to really be flexible about how comfortable they are with the pandemic world we live in. So, and making sure, because you talked about, with listings, that And this is how I'm different from a discount broker too. When I do talk to them, I'm very sensitive to their needs and concerns relative to the pandemic. So I know I kind of took that in a different direction, but you started talking about the pandemic and what I'm doing different. And I think it's really giving them the opportunity to tell me how comfortable they are, and me putting in place the tools to protect them if I'm having their house shown. So, because I can't beat Michael and Roxanne on their fun social media stuff. Those are good.
Right? Sense of comfort is important. Safety, the reality is we are still in this pandemic, right? So I think customers that want to list their home still want that assurance that you're going to take every precaution, you're going to do everything necessary to make sure that the people walking through their home are one, we're doing it in a very safe fashion. And I think it's critical for agents to outline, hey, here's the things I do when I do your open houses and allow it. I love the fact that, in some markets now we have people lining up outside, which is, creates that sense of excitement, so to speak, and really does build that I've seen that in a couple of places where, we have a lineup of people waiting to get into a home, and it creates that frenzy of excitement that there's a lot of demand, So Michael, anything you want to add on to the marketing side? I know we kind of shifted gears real quick on you, so I'll have you throw in something.
No, it's really just staying top of mind. And then the other big thing that I've been doing is using like handwritten notes, handwritten cards to comment and follow up on Facebook to see like little shout out to Design Concierge. Look, hey.
Nice.
And then I just had some note cards printed so I could send them out to people. And and then I've got some cards that are a little inappropriate, so I'm not going to show those. But it's really classy handwriting, but it's like you're the shit, and it looks like you're getting invited to a wedding. And then they read it, and it's on everybody's refrigerator. So back to staying top of mind is the big part of it.
Yeah.
And being different, right? You're differentiating yourself. I love it. It's unique. It's different. And we'll go in, these handwritten notes, these top of mind awareness, these communication strategies. I'll let Alex jump in at the end and share a couple of secrets he's working on. But I think that's the importance of today's connectivity. It's how do we stay connected with our clients and our sphere to garner more listings. All right, good. Any strategies around, I'm just going to throw in something of garnering listings. One of the things I've heard on open houses is are any of you doing anything different when you have a house go pending to market that property still continuing? Because I know people do the just listed, just sold, right? And they market homes during this, but during the pending process, when we have multiple offers, I had a great strategy around, now we have 5 people that want to buy a house that only one person is going to acquire. So going out there and marketing, any of you marketing and promoting to the neighborhood now that I have, 4 potential buyers, but I can't satisfy them? So do you, similar rooftops, are you doing anything different? Handwritten notes, emails, going in Kohl's directory or anything like that that's going to be different and unique?
I have David over at our office said, I had a listing, 2 listings across the street from each other, and the multiple offers that lost out went to the house across the street. And he said, you need to get Amelia to send out just pending, get a letter to everybody, do it now, and I need an assistant so I can get that done,
Yeah.
But what a great idea, and I also think just listed, pending, and just sold. I think those are, why just listed and just sold? Just send the pending out already, because that hits them consistently. And so, but I do think it's important that you also bring in the social media part. If you're part of a next door neighborhood, farming that next door, then go ahead and say, hey, I just listed this and I just sold, it's under contract with 10 offers or whatever. I'm a little bit slow on that. I need to do better. There's so many things we can do and I don't do enough, and I feel like when you do that on social media, I get kind of worried that, oh my gosh, what if the deal falls through? Well, you said it was pending. I have the card right here, but in this market, even if it's pending one day, it's under contract the next day, because I've had the multiple offers and then I immediately tell them, look, we're under contract now, but give me your backup. So last 2 listings I've had backups just waiting, just in case,
Terry, how about you?
I was just going to add to that. Yeah, I mean, those are great ideas. I like that. I haven't done that, and I will definitely do it now. Market to the neighborhood once we get into multiple offers, or even, knock on the doors. I mean, because you have a short span to get that done in, so it might be worth, literally knocking on doors with your mask on. But get those backup offers too. That's real important to have backup.
Yeah, I've heard it works really well when you're in a master plan community, especially when you have every other third or fourth home that are very similar rooftops, marketing to those homeowners, whether it's handwritten notes, Michael, or doing something different. The other one I've heard, just sharing with the group here, is creating an open house even after a pending, specifically for the neighbors. That way they come in, have a discussion with you, potentially put their, want to talk about market stats. Obviously you can't share with them what the offer is, but really focusing on, hey, all you can tell them is that we have an offer over asking. And right now we've got 5 other buyers that potentially want to buy in this neighborhood. So that's worked as well. Again, sharing with you some of the best practices from the field. On that note, well, look, I want to jump into just quickly Listing Concierge. I know, you are all big fans of Listing Concierge. Michael, how has that differentiated you? And then my last question to the group, and then we'll pass it on to Alex to take on some questions from the panel or from the audience. So, Michael, how has Listing Concierge helped you or differentiated you in your listing approach?
Well, for one, it wows your seller, because they're like, oh, you're really going to do all of this, not just one thing. And then it's really helped me get more listings in that neighborhood. From one, they see the sign with my cute picture. And then from there, then they get a just listed card. And then later on, they get a just sold card. So it's bam, 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 top of mind.
Okay.
It's
Roxanne,
huge.
what about you?
Well, I'm still old school, and I not only take my little computer that we're looking on right now, but I also take my notebook. And in my notebook, I have the Moxie presentation in there in paper form. And then I also have a copy of the Austin Monthly. I have the copy of the Concierge brochure pamphlet, and then samples of my brochures and just sold cards and just listed, because I get those, right? But one of my friends, Stacy, in the office, she did a fantastic thing. She went ahead and just got subscriptions for her past clients to Austin Monthly. And so they're like pennies on the dollar. So it's not a big expense, but that way they can see her picture, to Michael's point, top of mind, maybe pass it over to their friends. I love that idea. So I like to leave them with my stuff and to show them this is what we do,
Terry, what about you? Listing Concierge.
I think I mentioned I've used it from day one. It's the best thing that ever happened to my business, to have a nice comprehensive marketing program that I can sell and show my clients that will become what markets me. I don't know how you feel about this, but I love it when I can show that magazine, because there's agents in my market with other brokers who advertise their faces in the magazine constantly. And I love to be able to talk to my clients about, I spend my marketing money marketing your home rather than my face. So you're not going to see my face on billboards, or in these magazines, you're going to see your home. And that's where I focus. So I love that in Listing Concierge, I can do that.
I like that. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, look, I'm going to, first of all, thank you. We could probably go on for hours on this topic of listings and how to garner listings, but I just want to thank each and every one of you for jumping on and wanting to share your best practices and hopefully build, a better network within our CB organization. There's a lot at this point in listings that are going to lead our market. Listings are king. I always tell people, when you got a listing agent, you got 24,000 realtors, depending on where you are, working for you. If you're on the buying side, you're chasing and working for those other buyers. So listings are going to be critical. And, I love the fact, Roxanne, Michael, Terry, you all talked about specific things you do, and really time blocking is important, right? How do we stop our day and focus on writing those handwritten notes, making those calls, connecting with our sphere? That's what's going to generate the business. So with that said, I'm going to pass it on to Alex. Alex, the ball is yours. I'm sure you want to share with them the excitement and things that you were in the ground, you were in the trenches in many years in Miami. So share with us your great experience, and thank you all. Off to you, Alex.
Well, I'll tell you, there's, I think Teresa mentioned, or Terry mentioned door knocking. I don't think there's anything like door knocking, but forget my experience for a minute. My dog's about to go crazy barking in the background. So forgive me guys. I do have a quick question for you. Because you're talking about using listing concierge and using it to market around the listing itself. So I've done about 130 plus coaching sessions over the last 3 weeks. I would tell you that 99% of the agents want more listings. They don't necessarily want to have to fight the competition for it because in the Dallas Metroplex alone, we have 43,000 realtors, many of which are discount. So they don't want to have to fight the discount brokers, et cetera. So they're looking for the path of least resistance, which is always their sphere of influence, right? So my question to you, and I've called this the dagger question in my coaching sessions. There's a lot that comes before this, but I'll ask it straight. Let's say that I'm in your sphere of influence. I have nothing to do with Coldwell Banker. I'm a friend that owns a triathlon CrossFit gym. That's my deal, or a barbecue restaurant, right? How do I, as someone in your sphere of influence, know that you took a listing? Terry, we'll start with you.
Well, again, that's one of the things I've been doing for a while, but I always pre-market the listing, if I don't, I try to get the photos up front, and if I can get them on Facebook and announce them that way, and I pre-market I
Okay.
through, and also through our Panda, to those mailings. So
email and social media.
Yeah.
Okay. Roxanne?
I think that's, yeah, for sure. Email, social media, but it's a great excuse to call somebody. It's a fantastic, hey, I hadn't talked to you in a while, but I just got a listing in your neighborhood, and hey, I'm going to go over there and do an open house. You want to get coffee beforehand, or you want to, something like that, or do make sure that when you send those cards out, like when I send my sphere, the cards quarterly, they get, the pictures of all of my listings. And so that, to let them know it's coming. I mean, I'm really working hard in your neighborhood. Love the barbecue. Hey, maybe you can provide some barbecue for my open house. Would that be okay? Maybe some little, nuggets. I don't know.
I do have a Kamado Joe smoker. I love that thing. Mike, how about you?
Facebook event pages, commenting on Facebook event, inviting people, through there, handwritten notes, calls, text, group text, whatever it takes.
Okay. So I want to walk you guys through an exercise. All right. And we're going to do a live impromptu coaching sessions in the last 6 minutes. And I want to kind of go through this. All right. So Mike, let's pick you. Lightning round. Like if you're in a deposition, I ask you a question, just feed me the answer. All right. Cool.
Okay.
How many people know Mike on a first name basis that if all you did was pick up the phone and say, hey, it's Mike, they know who you are?
Probably a couple hundred.
Okay, so let's say 200.
Okay.
How many listings ballpark did you take last year, Mike?
Probably about 18.
Okay, so let's just make the numbers easy and make it 20. Now, for those 200 people that you have, do you have everybody's email address?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have everybody's home address?
Pretty much, yeah.
All right. And do you follow everybody on social media? Do you mutually follow each other? Okay.
Yes.
Now, imagine you took 20 listens. What if I told you, and this is what Charles was referring to about CB9, because we do a great job of, we take a listing in South Lake and we send the postcards around the listing, right? But I want to talk to you about farming your SOI. So this is, for those that are still on, this is what CB9 is about. Imagine taking a listing and emailing to your sphere of influence, just listed. Some of us do that, some of us don't. The postcard, if you can afford to do it to your listing and the 200 people in your sphere of influence, do both. My opinion, I think if you can only afford to do one, I would just do your sphere of influence, and I'll explain why in a minute, versus around the listing. So you send a just listed postcard to your sphere of influence and to around the listing if you can afford it, but this is just SOI, and you post it on social media. Then you put it under contract. Roxanne, you were talking about, this. And when you feel comfortable to disclose that it's under contract, because remember, we're all superstitious as realtors. We can all say we're not, we are. We wait, we want to go through all contingencies, et cetera. You can then email a under contract, even if it's the day of closing, under contract in 2 hours, 10 offers, whatever it is. you send an under contract postcard to your sphere of influence, okay? And you send an under contract, and then you do an under contract social media post. Then when you close the deal, you do a just sold email,
Love
a
it.
just sold postcard to your SOI, and a just sold social media post. And what happens is you have now taken one of your listings and in one way, shape, or form communicated with your SOI 9 different times. Now, let me ask you, I'm gonna do the math real quick here, Mike, and I wanna ask you. So let's say you took 20 listings times 9 times 200 people. What if I told you, if you contacted your sphere of influence 36,000 times throughout the year, how many more showing them, hey, I take a listing, I put it under contract, I closed it. I took a listing, I put it under contract, I closed it. How many more listings from your SOI do you think you would be able to get?
Wow. Probably up from 10% to at least 20%, maybe 30.
A lot of listings. I told you my dogs would go crazy in the background. And so one of the things I love, and I discovered this because I'm new to CB. I just moved here 7 months ago, was that if for agents who have this data, you can actually upload your sphere of influence list to Listing Concierge, and you can do all of this through Listing Concierge. And the reason and then I'm going to open it up to questions. The reason I share this, why I would always do your sphere of influence over just your closing the door here, sorry, so the dogs don't bark. If you only had to choose one, your SOI or around the listing, we're encouraging our agents to choose their SOI. Because if you take, and I don't know your areas, but I do know the Dallas Metroplex. If you take a listing in Frisco, but then you take a listing in Arlington, which is an hour away, the Frisco people don't care about the Arlington listing, and the Arlington listing don't care about the Frisco listing. But your sphere of influence goes with you wherever you go. And so it's that common denominator that wherever you do business, whether it be in Houston or Austin or DFW, wherever you go, that's the one common denominator. And that's why I choose the SOI over the listing, if you can't afford to do both, right? So that's what CB9 is about. Reach out to us if you want more information. Listing Concierge can do it. Quick question I want to ask you. I'm going to go through the questions real quick here. So for new agents like myself, can you go into what the discount broker agent's process is? So I'd actually reverse it. What if you were to say, because it's already 10 o'clock, in 30 seconds, walk me through your listing presentation. You knock on the door, 30 seconds. What do you do? Terry, go.
Okay. The first 30 seconds or you want me to say it in 30 seconds? Okay.
In 30 seconds, what do? I walk the home, I sit down, I ask questions, I present, I walk out.
Well, I was just going to say, so I walk in, we walk the home first. I put my stuff down, walk the home. Tell me about what improvements you've made to the house. As we're walking, we're learning about why they want to sell, what they love about their home, what they don't love. Then we sit down and I pull out my laptop and I take them through the Moxie presentation and show them all the Listing Concierge material. Right before I do that, I kind of get a sense, I talk about who I am and everything. And then I also find out, I try to get clues to what's more important to them. Of course, the numbers always are, but the marketing, so you kind of ask a few questions that help you understand what kind of person are you dealing with? Is it somebody who just wants to get to the numbers, don't bother me with that other stuff? Or I really want to know about the bells and whistles and things you're going to do. So.
Got it. Roxanne?
I usually bring a baked good. Chris Leader was big about this. You say, give them food. People love to eat. And you sit down with the homemade oatmeal cookies was the last one I took. I also, with their permission, ask them to take pictures because I tell them part of what I do is staging, and I'd like to show them to my stager so that we can make it ready for market. And then I, do everything what Terry said, hey, what do you love about this house? What have been your favorite things? Why are you leaving? What's your motivation? And then I say, if you give me 3 things you need out of a realtor, what would that be? Open houses, marketing, money.
Mm-hmm.
What are your top 3 things? And I put them on a 3x5 card, and then I address each one on how I can do that. And then at the end of the day, I make sure that I have my listing paperwork ready with their names on it and ask them, hey, is there any reason why we shouldn't sign it now? We're ready to go. you know?
Ooh, okay, I want to repeat, is there any reason why we shouldn't be signing the paperwork tonight? That, I really like that, Roxanne. That's
Well, and if they say, well, because I'm interviewing somebody else, really, who would that be? You know, or, you know, why do you need to do that? What is it that you think they can bring to the table that I haven't already addressed? So we can address that. Let's address it, you know?
cool. I love it. Mike, before you answer, I just want to let you know, you said your history was in PF Chang's. Back in Miami, PF Chang's had a beautiful restaurant on the open bay, and it had a walkway, and that's where I proposed to my wife, was on the walkway, because our first date was at PF Chang's.
Wow.
30-second overview. What do you do in a listing presentation?
Well, I emailed them all the paperwork. So whenever I go in, it's just me. We walk the house, we visit a little bit and just talk about, you know, like what's their goals. The biggest part for me is like, what is their end goal? What do we need to do? And besides that, most of the time they've called me. So I'm not competing against anybody. So, I mean, it's not, mine are a little more informal, I guess. And then we open the wine. So
always drink. That's funny. I had that in my listing presentation class. Always drink the wine. Roxanne, you mentioned something about a multiple offer training that Coldwell Banker does. Is that what you were referring to? Was it Roxanne? I don't remember.
Terry. It was Terry.
Yeah, I was just I was just reading some of the chats. So we do offer, your office often offers that multiple offer training, and really you could sit down with your office manager or another agent, and there's all those documents, and sit down with them and go through that. So you could do it one-on-one, or sometimes an office might present that. I know our office does.
Got it. How are you guys leveraging lender appraisal addendums in multiple offer situations? I'll let anybody go for it, just because we're over time already as it is, but we're keeping everybody, which means you guys are bringing value. So.
We're getting a lot of waivers. We're just getting waivers. And when at the end of the day, I tell my clients, look, this keeps you from having to worry about what's going to happen. So it's a great way to weed out. And when I'm with the buyer, I tell them, you know, do you have cash to cover if it doesn't appraise? Because if you do, then we can just waive the appraisal. So.
Yeah.
All right. It looks like somebody just said they have a Traeger smoker. Those are amazing. I love the feedback. All right, guys. I think we're good to go. Go ahead, Charles.
Before you go, I wanted to share one more thing. You know, Tatum Hood on one of your interviews did a phenomenal job talking about how he secures the listing when he goes in, and I've never heard an agent say that. So I wanted to share with. I hope I'm not missing the point here, but I think when he goes in for his listing appointment, he does the document signing in reverse order, which I thought was absolutely fascinating. Getting people to sign all the addendums first, and then coming into the contract, because they've already bought into the mental process that they've agreed to get to the listing, and they're signing it. So it's very hard for them to sort of reverse engineer in their minds that they're backing out of the deal. And of course, when you get to the front end of the contract, it lists the sales price and everything else, but they've signed all the formalities beforehand. Get them to take psychological ownership of that contract and get in. Phenomenal idea from Tatum. I thought it was kind of cool. I wanted to share it. So
Charles, and really you talked about the psychology, and we can end it here. There's this thing called endowment effect and loss aversion. Endowment effect is the principle that once you own something, the value that you place on it is significantly higher than what it's actually worth. Every seller that we deal with, right? And then you have loss aversion, which is the principle that once you do own something, the power of losing it is 2 times stronger than the power of a gain. And at that point, one of the best ways that you can take ownership of something is a pen to the paper. It's like literally stores used to say, do not touch, because they didn't want things breaking. And then they realized their sales went down. So they started bringing, please do touch, like touch it, sample it. Because they realized when people were touching the phones, they already started envisioning their life with it. And so that's great what Tatum does, because he's having them take ownership of it prior to even, as he goes through the listing. So food for thought. Guys, well, Charles, wrap it up. You guys crushed it.
Roxanne, Terry, Michael, thank you. Alex, thank you. Great insight. We want to continue the CB Success Series for all the audience out there. Please feel free to put some comments in the chat box. Tell us things you like, things you'd like to see, people you'd like to see on the panel, and we'll be happy to address those. But this quarter, we are focusing on listings. Let's make hay while the sun is shining. We got great interest rates, a competitive market, and everybody wants to move to Texas. So if you're not out there getting listings, get out there and do something. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Alex. Have a great morning, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.